What's going on, everybody? Good afternoon. We're here on Tuesday where oftentimes not a lot will happen as far as NFL stuff goes. You don't even get a practice for the most part. You don't get an injury report. It's just a day before things really kick off because Wednesday's obviously a big day. And for the Seahawks, it's an especially big day because we're going to find out about guys like Abe Lucas and to a certain extent DK Metcalf and how the health of this team is going to be lining up going into the second half of the season. But this video, I want to talk about the video that I made on Sunday where I asked how people were doing, where people were mentally with this team right now after getting a week off and having a week to digest what happened over the first 9 games. And I want to talk about one sentiment that I got a lot in the video. And I want to be clear. I think the sentiment's good. I think it's a healthy way to look at things. I'm just not 100% sure if the team is in alignment with it based on their decision making in the most recent offseason. And what I'm talking about is this idea that the Seahawks are rebuilding. That's a comment that I got a lot. The Seahawks are a rebuilding team, first year with a new coach, first year with a new basically whole coaching staff, and we have to work within those confines, understanding that not every coach, even a good coach, even a great coach, is going to have a great first year. So they're chilling. They're not upset about anything. And I think that's a good way to look at things. And I think there is definitely some truth to that. But I want to ask something. I want to explore something real quick here. And the thing is, in order for a team to be rebuilding, the team has to actually commit to the rebuild on some level in the way they're doing things. And that's kind of my concern here. And it's also part of the reason why I can't completely agree with that sentiment. Because on screen here, you probably already noticed I've got the contract page for Leonard Williams. So let's take a look at Leonard Williams here. And I want to ask at the end of this video, if the Seattle Seahawks were committed to rebuilding, would they have done this? And I think the answer is very clearly no. And this is one of the few moves they made in the offseason that was in this direction, but it was also one of their biggest moves. Okay? So when this is kind of your landmark move in free agency, keeping Leonard Williams, you got to kind of be evaluated based off that decision being a huge part of what you did in the offseason. So, Leonard Williams turned 30 years old in June, right? So, he was 30 years old before he played a single snap on this contract, and you knew that when you signed him. He's a player with a lot of miles on him. He's played in this league since 2015. Came into the league very young relative to other players. So this is a guy with a lot of miles on him. And you gave him $64.5 million over 3 years. That is $21.5 million a year. And he is one of your biggest cap hits in 2025 as of right now. And there's really not much you can do to get out from underneath that in a significant way. So in all likelihood, you're going to just plain be looking at having him in 2025. Now, let me stress, because some people are going to take this the wrong way, Leonard Williams has been really good this year. I think he's played good football, and he's been a part of the little bit of success that we've had on this defense so far. I think that a big chunk of what we managed to do so far this year is because Leonard Williams has been really good. I think he's been worth, if not every penny of that contract, then a vast majority of it. I'm good with that. But I got to ask, would a rebuilding team make their biggest offseason move re-signing a 30-year-old defensive lineman with a lot of miles to a $64.5 million contract? If the Seahawks, when they fired Pete and hired McDonald, thought to themselves, it's time to rebuild, then why is this happening? That's what I'm wondering about. That's why it's hard for me to say that this is explainable and acceptable and excusable, what we're seeing right now with this team that right now isn't even average overall. Like they have like maybe a slightly above average offense, but a well below average defense on the whole this season, I think. But this should not have happened if you were actually rebuilding. Because let's look at this, right? Okay, next year, one thing that's kind of nice, next year's the big cap hit for Leonard Williams, right? Almost $30 million next year against the cap, 2025. Probably going to stick around because the savings aren't that big, right? The saving, you save a decent amount, but so much of it is dead, and he's still such a good player. Probably keeping him around. 2026, okay, there's a decision to make here. You save almost $17 million if you let him go. It really depends on how he's playing at that point. But you see how short the window here is with Leonard Williams? You see how it was backloaded, where only that first year would be cheap. Only that first year would be 4% of the cap, $10.4 million. You see what I'm saying? So really, not only is this a contract in terms of value and age that you don't give out if you're rebuilding, you also don't structure the contract like this where you're trying to strike now. This is a move that a team makes when they're trying to win games now. And they're doing it knowing that it may make it a little bit harder for them to win games down the line because the cap number is going to balloon and the play you get relative to the money that you're spending is going to be significantly devalued. I think you guys get what I'm saying here, right? It's just not the kind of move a team makes if they're thinking, okay, we're going to go for a playoff spot in 2025 and the Super Bowl in 2026. Teams don't do that and then give out this deal. Because by 2026, he's going to be 32 years old. Quite possibly you're moving off of him at that point because it's a lot of savings and it's not that much dead. So the Leonard Williams timeline doesn't really line up with that rebuild. That's what I'm trying to get at here. And you could make an argument that it was the only move we made in the offseason that was at all short-term thinking. Maybe Noah Fant, right? Maybe somebody like a Noah Fant. At least Noah Fant's young, but it was a 2-year deal, and it had an easy out after 1. So maybe that's a move you don't make also if you're thinking about a rebuild. But when you do something like this, the message you're sending is that the team is going to go for it over the next couple of years. 2024 and 2025 is the window, and really 2024 is the more obvious window with a contract like this because the contract goes up almost triple the cap hit in 2025. So this is why I have a hard time just blowing this season off. This is why I say I'm disappointed so far. Not because I think McDonald is bad, not because I think it's a capital offense to be not so good in the first year of a new coaching regime, but because, quite honestly, I just don't think this is the move that you make if you're thinking along those lines. Again, you've got basically a 2-year window with Leonard Williams, one of your most valuable players on defense, when you signed this deal. And I know we traded for him and we would have looked really dumb if we just let him walk after 10 games where we didn't even make the playoffs. I understand that. But this team is not supposed to be afraid of looking dumb. They kind of look dumb right now, letting both of the linebackers they signed in the offseason go before you get to the 10th game. So sometimes you look dumb. If it's the right thing to do, it's the right thing to do. And I think that looking at this, maybe it would have been the right thing to do. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think about that. And look, there's still time and there's still a window to make this work, right? Like I said, 2024 was the best window. 2025 is still part of the Leonard Williams window, right? I don't think 2026 will be. We'll see. But 2025 definitely is. And if you look at this team right now, I will say this. I think they're an offensive line away from having an elite offense. I really do. I think everything else is good. We got the quarterback. We got the receivers. We got the running backs. I mostly think we have the tight ends. The tight ends are good enough for what we do. I'm not worried about that. So it's pretty clear what we need, but we need it. We need that offensive line. And then defensively, we're probably going to need a little bit of help at edge rusher after this season because Nwosu might be gone and Draymond will be gone. Maybe we need a nose tackle. That's not too hard to handle. And maybe we're going to need a linebacker. So it's not a huge list of things that are holding this team back. So I'm not calling this a failure. John Schneider absolutely has the opportunity to go into this offseason and say, I need this very narrow list of things, and we have a really good team. And Leonard Williams gets to be part of that really good team. But it has to happen. And it didn't happen this year. Pretty much everything you tried to do on the offensive line has blown up in your face. Cross being the one blue chipper, I don't even know if that counts. That's a top 10 pick. Of course he's supposed to be really good. But yeah, it's not over yet. And I don't think we're that far away from being a very good team. But it's going to require an offseason of precision. So I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks. Just something to think about here. And just something to push back on this idea that we're in a rebuild, because I don't want to give anybody a free pass if they don't deserve it. Like, if John Schneider was supposed to build a really good playoff team this year, and he didn't do it, then he should be held accountable for that. If Mike Macdonald was supposed to come in here and whip this defense into shape overnight and get better results than Carroll, so far he is failing. And if that's the standard, hold them to that standard. All right, I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks. Maybe another video later today, but yeah, I'm just kind of waiting to see who actually ends up being able to play for us this upcoming weekend, and just try to talk myself into a win to keep the season alive that I already kind of feel like is going to be really hard to get to. But plenty of time to talk about that later. Go Hawks.